Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's meeting of the Assembly Ways and Means Senate Finance Joint Subcommittee on Public Safety, Natural Resources, and Transportation. Would the Secretary please call the roll?
Senator Goycochea. Senator Harris. Senator Wynn. Here. Assemblywoman Anderson. Assemblywoman Brown May. Assemblywoman Dickman. Here. Assemblywoman Gorlow. Here. Assemblyman Hafen. Chair Watts.
I am here. Thank you. We have everybody present. Actually, please mark. Yeah, no, everyone's present. Fantastic. So we have 28 budget closings in front of us today. So we're going to do our best to try and keep this moving. We will have a public comment period at the end of today's meeting. So with that, we're going to jump right in, and I will turn it over to staff to start on our first budget, which I believe is post.
Good morning, Chair and members of the subcommittee. My name is Daniel Miller from the LCB Fiscal Analysis Division for the record. This morning, as the Chair said, there are 28 budget accounts scheduled on the agenda, 1 for Peace Officer Standards and Training, and 27 for the Department of Public Safety. 10 of the budgets have been previously heard by the subcommittee, and staff is responsible for developing the recommendations for the remaining 18. Beginning with the Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission, budget account 1013774, there are 2 major closing items in this budget account. The first is the funding source change from court administrative assessments to general fund appropriations. The Governor recommends general fund appropriations of $2.3 million in fiscal year 2024 and $2.4 million in fiscal year 2025 to replace court administrative assessment revenue. Court administrative assessment revenue has been significantly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the incorporation of Marcy's Law into the Nevada Constitution in 2018, which requires restitution to be collected on many charges first. Based on a projection prepared by the Judicial Branch in November of 2022, the court administrative assessment revenue is estimated to be about $15.6 million in each fiscal year of the 2023-25 biennium. Total projected court administrative assessment revenue of $31.1 million over the 2023 through 25 biennium represents a $13.5 million decrease, or 30.2%, as compared to the court administrative assessment revenue of the $44.6 million projected for the 2021-23 biennium. The Governor recommends enhancements in the executive branch budgets that are supported by court administrative assessment revenue to replace this revenue source with general fund appropriations. If the Governor's recommendation is approved to replace court administrative assessment revenue in the executive branch budgets with general fund appropriations, all court administrative assessment revenues not recommended to fund the judicial branch budgets in the 2023-25 biennium would be deposited into the unrestricted state general fund. This budget would primarily be funded through general fund appropriations. Accordingly, any funds remaining at the end of fiscal year 2024 would revert to the general fund, and the budget would no longer maintain an operating reserve category. If necessary, the Commission can request an allocation from the Interim Finance Committee contingency account, since the budget would include general fund appropriations in each year of the biennium. During the March 1st, 2023 hearing, the subcommittee questioned how replacing the court administrative assessments with general fund appropriations would impact the Commission's operations. In response, the Commission indicated that court assessment revenue has not been a stable source of funding, which has led to delays in paying bills and vendors due to waiting for the court assessment revenue to be posted to the budget account. The Commission states that having general fund appropriations would improve the Commission's ability to pay its bills and vendors on time, as the funding would be available at the beginning of each fiscal year. If the subcommittee recommends approval of replacing all court assessment revenues with general fund appropriations, the major issue number 2 and all other closing items inclusive of this indicated technical adjustments discussed below will be funded with general fund appropriations rather than court assessment revenues as otherwise indicated. However, the $4.7 million general fund total recommended for the 2023-25 biennium is inclusive of all recommended court assessment revenues recommended in base, maintenance, and enhancement decision units in this budget, but not technical adjustments recommended for other closing items 2 and 3. Therefore, fiscal staff recommends a technical adjustment to this decision unit to add general fund appropriations of $7,566 in both fiscal year 2024 and fiscal year 2025 to account for the budgetary impact of those technical adjustments. Does the subcommittee wish to approve general fund appropriations totaling $4.7 million over the 2023-25 biennium to replace court administrative assessment revenues as recommended by the governor, as well as a technical adjustment of $7,566 and additional general fund appropriations in each fiscal year to fund the technical adjustments noted for other closing items 2 and 3?
Thank you. Members, any questions on this decision unit? Seeing none, I'd accept a motion.
Thank you, Chair Watts. I would move that we approve general fund appropriations totaling $4.7 million over the 2023 biennium to replace the court assessments revenues as recommended by the governor, as well as the technical adjustment of $7,566 and additional general fund appropriations in each fiscal year to fund the technical adjustments noted.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. Our second major issue is the new learning management system. The governor recommends $31,400 in court administrative assessment revenue over the 2023-25 biennium to fund a new learning management and secure testing information system to replace the Nevada eLearn system. The commission states that the NV eLearn system is being decommissioned and it would need to purchase a new learning management information system to continue to provide certification for exams and training. NV eLearn is a state-sponsored training information system that is provided at no direct charge to state agencies. Currently, the commission uses the system to administer peace officer training and testing, but noted the system would not, but noted the commission the Smart 21 project would also allow training to be conducted at no direct charge to state agencies. Major issue number one, or as discussed in major issue number one, the governor recommends replacing the court administrative assessment revenue with general funds, including the funding in this decision unit. During the March 1st, 2023 hearing, the subcommittee questioned whether the commission could utilize NV eLearn as the completion of the Smart 21 had been delayed. In response, the commission stated it would be able to continue using the NV eLearn platform. However, the commission expressed concern that if the platform were to stop functioning, enterprise IT services would not have the ability to bring it, may not have the ability to bring it back online. However, the governor issued a letter on March 31st, 2023, notifying state agencies that the executive committee for the Smart 21 project has made the decision to cancel the implementation of Smart 21, indicating Nevada eLearn would continue to be available for the commission to utilize. Does the subcommittee wish to approve $31,400 in court assessments over the 2023-25 biennium to fund a new learning management system as recommended by the governor?
Thank you, Mr. Miller. I'm going to actually ask Post to come up so that we can get some updated, our best possible updated information. I know that the notice from the governor's office about the cancellation of the Smart 21 project was recent, and I know that we are going to be having a more in-depth conversation about that in joint committees, I believe, this Saturday. However, based on that, I was wondering if we can get the best information that you have, given that. What do you see as kind of the future of the eLearn platform that currently exists, and has that modified the necessity for this new learning management system?
Well, thank you, Senator. Mike Sherlock, for the record. I'm the executive director at Post. From our perspective, NV eLearn utilizes currently Moodle, open source Moodle. We believe that there's still a need, based on our security concerns and the amount of time that we spend delivering training and testing, that to have an internal control and actual platform of our own is still critical, we think, to our operations. So even though we're going back, it appears, to NV eLearn, you're still utilizing open source Moodle. This budget item would allow us to use Moodle directly and controlled by our staff, and the security issues and all those things. So our hope is to still to go that direction.
Thank you. Members, are there additional questions while we have Post up here? Chair Harris.
Thank you, Chair Watts. Assuming we approve the new learning management system, is there any risk that this new system may not work with some future modernization project, whatever the next variation of Smart 21 is, and then we've got to scrap that and get you something else?
Certainly, thank you, Senator. And Mike Sherlock, for the record, and that's a good point. And one of the reasons that we do want to go with our own dedicated Moodle supported system. Currently, we're in Moodle already. It is open source, but so we don't see, for us, it would be standalone to prevent some of those problems that you're talking about. Regardless of what the state may do in terms of technology, we'd still be good with our own system in-house. And that's part of the reasons that we want to go with our own.
Members, any additional questions? Assemblywoman Dickman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just wondering if there were a system that you could integrate with, is there a long-term commitment with this, or could you end it easily if we went with this?
So, Mike Sherlock, for the record, so when this particular item, it is a 3-year contract with Moodle, but Moodle's been around for a long time, and we don't foresee any issues with that in terms of technology. Again, the advantage of having our own supported Moodle allows us to put that back on the vendor to keep us up to date on those type of issues.
Thank you. And it would seem even if we did find something to replace Smart 21, it might take 3 years at least to implement it anyway. So thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. That might be an optimistic timeline. Members, any other questions? I guess just to follow up on some of the questions brought up by some of the other members, I think I've seen NV eLearn. I think having something that's updated, having something that's a little bit more customized and has some of those security protections in place makes sense. I think the overall concern is that wherever we go from here, we don't want to have, we want to come up with some sort of solution that can broadly work. And so we had heard that where Smart 21 was going, that we were going to move away from this into a solution that wasn't going to meet the security and other needs. I don't want to end up in a scenario where we have 5 or 6 different learning systems and multiple contracts and some agencies over here and some over there. I'd like to see us ideally head into a place where we have another kind of global solution that works for everyone. So I think that's probably going to be a conversation that we're going to have to continue to have at a higher level with the executive branch and those that are thinking through what comes next post Smart 21. So I think at this time, I'd be willing to recommend approval, but I just wanted to make it clear both to you and for everyone watching, I think what some of the concerns are that we have, that we want to make sure that this doesn't end up kind of fragmented with a lot of different systems. Assemblywoman Anderson.
Thank you, Chair. And I think based upon what you were just saying, I'm wondering what the checks and balances are if we were to continue to have this for the other. It sounds like from the background information for another 3-6 years. What are the checks and balances to make sure it's actually working? And wanting to make sure, and I think that kind of goes along with what the chair was saying, are there already internal checks and balances? And if so, who are those reported to? Or are there external checks and balances? Just curious about that, making sure that the program is working as it should be.
Again, Mike Sherlock, for the record, thank you for that. So again, I think we currently use, NV eLearn currently, and I'm no IT expert, but NV eLearn, we currently use open source Moodle. And multiple, obviously, state agencies across state use NV eLearn currently, which is Moodle. And so what, our proposal for us to have our own supported Moodle is no different than what's going on out there. And we've had discussions with DPS, for instance, and that kind of thing, where there'd be the availability of that source to other state agencies. But again, it's currently what's being used now, and it has not been an issue for us in terms of that platform.
Thank you. And any other questions for members of the committee? Senator Goicoechea.
Thank you, and it sounds like what we've got in place is working. We're worried about how long it's going to work.
That's one of the concerns, Senator. Obviously with Smart 21, we had issues that was not going to work for us in terms of security. Again, we do the state certification test on there, and a lot of other issues that are unique to us. We understand that, but and then again with the current NVE Learn and open source Moodle, we spend a lot of time. Actually, people call us, our staff, for Moodle problems because we use it so much. It just makes sense to have a supported Moodle within within the state that we can use and not have to do all that.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Again, I think that when we look at the size, the scope, the cost of this project, I feel comfortable with moving it forward, but I think a lot of these questions that have been raised over the last few minutes are questions that we're going to have to raise at a higher level about where the state's headed, and again, hopefully figure out, as part of that comprehensive IT overhaul, how we make sure that we have some learning systems, because I know many agencies have different uses for the current eLearn system, that we do have something that is comprehensive and we don't end up fragmented and potentially stacking lots of different contracts when we could have something that is a little more holistic, a little more cost effective. So with that, I would accept a motion to approve.
Thank you, Chair Watts. I would move that the subcommittee approve $31,400 in court assessments over the 2023-2025 biennium to fund a new learning management system as recommended by the governor.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chair Harris, a second by Vice Chair Anderson. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. On page 6 are 3 other closing items. The first other closing item is detailed in the table on the top of page 6. Regarding other closing item number 2, the governor recommends $20,172 in court administrative assessment revenue over the 2023-25 biennium to fund 9 training courses per fiscal year for staff assigned to instruct or assist with required basic academy training and advanced peace officer training. Fiscal staff would note the amount requested would only fund 6 training courses per fiscal year. In order to align the amount needed to fund 9 courses in each fiscal year, fiscal staff recommends a technical adjustment to increase court assessment revenue by $5,820 in fiscal year 2024 and fiscal year 2025 for a total cost of $31,812 over the 2023-25 biennium. Regarding other closing item number 3, the governor recommends $4,140 in court administrative assessment revenue over the 2023-25 biennium to increase travel expenses needed for the commission's meetings. According to the agency, travel expenses for the commission meetings have continually resulted in a shortfall, requiring the agency to transfer those funds from other areas of its budget. Based on supporting documentation provided by the agency, their current request is not sufficient to address the shortfall. Fiscal staff worked with the Administrative Services Division to reconcile the amount needed to support the commission's travel expenses and identified the commission would need an additional $3,492 over the 2023-25 biennium. Fiscal staff recommends a technical adjustment to increase court assessment revenue by $3,492 over the 2023-25 biennium. Fiscal staff recommends other closing item 1 be closed as recommended by the governor, other closing items 2 and 3 be closed with the noted technical adjustments, and requests authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any questions on these items? Seeing none, Chair Harris.
Thank you, Chair Watts. I would move that the subcommittee recommend other closing item 1 be closed as recommended by the governor, and other closing items 2 and 3 be closed with the noted technical adjustments, and grant staff authority to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. We'll be moving on to the Department of Public Safety. We'll begin with the Director's Office on page 6, budget count 201-4706. There are three major closing issues in this budget. The first major issue is to support the transfer of 9 positions to establish a new research and planning technology team. The governor recommends a decrease of $1.1 million of highway funds, a decrease of $560,995 of records, communications, and compliance division cost allocation reimbursements, and a decrease of $163,123 of fees with a corresponding increase of director's office cost allocation reimbursements of $1.8 million over the 2023-25 biennium. Prior to the 2013-2015 biennium, the Department of Public Safety operated an in-house technology bureau under the former Department of Public Safety Technology Division. During the 2013 legislative session, the legislature approved the governor's recommendation to eliminate the technology bureau and transferred the departments to the enterprise IT services. The transfer of the Department of Public Safety staff to the Division of Enterprise IT Services was intended to be viewed as a pilot program to move towards a statewide consolidated and standardized IT environment. The agency indicates there are unique services and processes that fall outside the scope of the Division of Enterprise IT Services that the department is more equipped to address. If approved, the proposed team would include 9 positions transferred from other departmental budgets and would be led by the Administrative Service Officer 4. The team would be organized into 3 groups: the Radio Systems Management, Operational Maintenance Technology, and Research and Planning Technology, as summarized in the table on page 10. The agency indicates the Research and Planning Technology team would be able to expand support for systems and equipment such as radios, body cameras, and citation systems, and would not negatively impact agencies transferring the positions to the director's office. Once the team progresses, the agency anticipates it would increase the capacity to accommodate other agencies within the department regarding efficiencies and technology uses, support, and development. During the February 16, 2023 hearing, the subcommittee expressed interest in how the Research and Planning Technology team would address its IT challenges. In response, the agency indicated that moving the modernization projects such as the Nevada Criminal Justice Information System and Offender Tracking Information System from EATS to the managing Department of Public Safety agencies has improved the progress on those projects. There is a technical adjustment to align the budgeting of a Business Process Analyst 2 position to a Business Process Analyst 3 position. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of position transfers as recommended by the governor to support the creation of a new Research and Planning Technology team for the Department of Public Safety, including the noted technical adjustment to budget the Business Process Analyst 2 position as a Business Process Analyst 3 position, resulting in an increase of $18,380 in cost allocation reimbursements over the 23-25 biennium?
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any questions on this item? Seeing none, I'd accept a motion.
Thank you, Chair Watts. I would move that the subcommittee recommend approval of position transfers as recommended by the governor, including the noted technical adjustment to the budget, the Business Process Analyst 2 position as a Business Process Analyst 3 position.
Second.
Say as read by staff. Thank you. Just to clarify, so you move to approve as read by staff?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. So we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. Our second major issue is for 2 personnel technicians. The governor recommends $280,848 in cost allocation reimbursements over the 23-25 biennium to fund 2 personnel technician 3 positions. According to the agency, the Human Resource Office is facing multiple challenges related to providing timely and efficient customer service for employee onboarding, emergency leave programs, and collective bargaining agreements. The agency indicates that it has also faced challenges related to the recent implementation of the collective bargaining in the state, as it must review changes and updates to labor agreements to prepare documents and records required for contract negotiations and conduct those negotiations with employees and labor unions. During the February 16, 2023 hearing, the subcommittee expressed interest about how the implementation of the collective bargaining agreements has impacted the agency's human resource workload. In response, the agency indicated that it has faced multiple difficulties with collective bargaining agreements, such as officer concerns regarding the collective bargaining agreement not being approved during the 2021-23 biennium, lack of experience in employee-employer relations with unions, labor agreement changes, and different financial benefits offered to employees under different collective bargaining agreements. Due to these issues and the implementation of Smart 21 that has resulted in additional workload, the agency indicates it requires additional support. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of two new personnel technicians for the Department of Public Safety's Human Resource Office as recommended by the governor?
Thank you. Members, any questions on this item? Seeing none, I accept a motion.
Thank you, Chair. I would move that the subcommittee recommend approval of two new personnel technicians for the Department of Public Safety's Human Resource Office as recommended by the governor.
I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division for the record. The third major issue in this budget account is the annual fee for the Joint Emergency Training Institute facility. The governor recommends $192,000 in cost allocation reimbursements over the 23-25 biennium to fund the annual maintenance fee for the Joint Emergency Training Institute facility. The Department of Public Safety requests to continue participating in the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department's Joint Emergency Training Institute facility in Southern Nevada through an annual membership fee that provides access to many of the training facilities on the campus. According to the department, the campus would be used to supplement in-service training of current officers with scenarios such as multi-agency emergency response and realistic city-like environments, classroom continuing education courses, active shooter training, emergency vehicle training, and other training to sharpen officer response. However, the department indicated that the intended use of the campus has been limited. The $96,000 annual fee consists of the facility's project management and maintenance costs. The split of the funding can be seen in the table on page 13. The membership includes training and access to the facility for 513 Southern Nevada State Police officers from the Nevada Highway Patrol, the Division of Parole and Probation, the Investigations Division, Fire Marshal, Capitol Police, Training Division, Office of Professional Responsibility, and Dignitary Protection. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of $192,000 in cost allocation reimbursements over the 23-25 biennium to fund the annual fee for the Joint Emergency Training Institute as recommended by the governor?
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Members, any questions on this item? Seeing none, I'd accept a motion.
Thank you, Chair Watts. I would move that the subcommittee recommend approval of $192,000 in cost allocation reimbursements over the 2023-2025 biennium to fund the annual fee for the Joint Emergency Training Institute as recommended by the governor.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division for the record. There are 7 other closing items in this budget account. Fiscal staff recommends other closing item 1 through 7 be closed as recommended by the governor and requests authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you. Members, any questions on the other closing items? Seeing none, I'd accept a motion.
Thank you, Chair. I would move that the committee recommend that the closing items 1 through 7 be closed as recommended by the governor and request authority and grant authority staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division for the record. Moving on to our second Department of Public Safety budget account for the evidence vault, budget account 2014701. There's one major issue in this account. The governor recommends cost allocation reimbursements of $174,822 over the 23-25 biennium for a new management analyst 2 position and associated expenditures to function as a new digital evidence technician. The agency states the addition of a digital evidence technician would allow the department to provide centralized, neutral, and secure storage for digital evidence such as crime scene photos, forensic downloads, witness interviews, and footage from body cameras, dash cameras, and surveillance cameras, and maintain the integrity of the chain of custody system for digital evidence. This position would also be responsible for providing witness testimony, disseminating evidence as requested or subpoenaed, and assisting with digital evidence audits and training. There is a technical adjustment noted here to budget the position to from a management analyst to a administrative assistant 4. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend approving cost allocation reimbursements of $140,799 over the 23-25 biennium for a new position to serve as a digital evidence technician for the headquarters office, inclusive of the noted technical adjustment to budget the position at the administrative 4 level to align the position with the agency's other property and evidence technicians.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions on this item? Seeing none, I would accept a motion.
Thank you, Chair Watts. I would move to recommend approving cost allocation reimbursements of $140,799 over the 2023-2025 biennium for a new position to serve as a digital technical evidence technician for the headquarters office, inclusive of the noted technical adjustments to the budget, the position at the administrative assistant level 4 to align the position with the agency's other property and evidence technicians.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division for the record. On page 18, there are 3 other closing items in the table. Fiscal staff recommends other closing items 1 through 3 be closed as recommended by the governor and requests authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you. Members, any questions on the other closing items? Seeing none, I'd accept a motion.
Thank you, Chair. I would move to recommend other closing items 1 through 3 be closed as recommended by the governor and grant staff authority to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division for the record. Moving on to our third budget count, which is the Department of Public Safety's Investigation Division, budget count 101-3743. There's one major issue in this budget count. The governor recommends changing the funding for the cost of 3 positions in the Safe Voice program with a new general fund appropriation of $304,330 transfers from the Department of Health and Human Services of $56,700 and a decrease in transfers from the Nevada Department of Education of $346,771 over the 23-25 biennium. The Safe Voice Call Center has 12 full-time employees, conducts operations 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and has received a total of 33,198 tips since 2018. The following graph on page 22 shows the total tips received in each calendar year from 2018 to 2022. Currently, the Safe Voice Call Center is funded with elementary and secondary school emergency relief funds transferred from NDE and tobacco settlement funds transferred from DHHS. The agency has identified $361,030 shortfall that would need to be funded to continue 3 of the 12 positions in the Safe Voice Call Center. During the February 16th, 2023 hearing, the subcommittee questioned the agency about finding other funding sources such as grants to continue funding the Safe Voice Call Center. In response, the agency confirmed it had sought out additional grants to continue funding the call center, but faced challenges identifying a grant that would provide funding for the state program that is already established in state law and was relevant to the program's scope of work. Therefore, the agency was unable to acquire additional funding to support the Safe Voice Call Center. The governor's recommendation also includes a general fund appropriation of $8,442 over the 2023 biennium for temporary employees. There's a technical adjustment noted for this major issue to align the elimination of transfers from NDE with the base position budgeted costs. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of $298,513 in general fund appropriations and $56,700 in transfers from DHHS to continue funding 3 positions within the Safe Voice program over the 2023-25 biennium, including the noted technical adjustments?
Thank you. Members, any questions on this item? Seeing none, I'd accept a motion.
Thank you, Chair Watts. I would move that the committee recommend approval of $298,513 in general fund appropriations and $56,700 in transfers from the DHHS to continue funding 3 positions within the Safe Voice program over the 2023-2025 biennium, including the noted technical adjustments.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division for the record. There are 5 other closing items in this budget account. Fiscal staff recommends other closing items 1 through 3 be closed as recommended by the governor. Items 4 and 5 be deferred for consideration to the statewide decision units closing, where other statewide grade increases will be considered, and requests authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you. Members, any questions on the other closing items? Seeing none, I'd accept a motion.
Thank you, Chair Watts. I would move to recommend other closing items 1 through 3 be closed as recommended by the governor. Items 4 and 5 be deferred for consideration to the statewide decision units closing where other statewide grade increases will be considered, and grant staff authority to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division for the record. We'll be moving on to our next Department of Public Safety budget count for the Central Repository for Nevada Records of Criminal History, budget count 1014709. There are 3 major issues in this account. The governor recommends $20.9 million in federal American Rescue Plan Act coronavirus state fiscal recovery funds over the 2023-25 biennium, with a corresponding general fund reduction of $434,009 over both fiscal years of the biennium to fund the continuation of the Nevada Criminal Justice Information System Modernization Project. This recommendation would add $1.3 million to the budget's reserves. The NCGIS project is a multi-biennial endeavor that is in its final phase and nearing completion. On October 20th, 2022, the Interim Finance Committee approved an allocation of $20.9 million in coronavirus state fiscal recovery funds to a dedicated reserve category and instructed the governor's finance office to include enhancement decision units in the executive budget to request the use of those reserves for the biennium. However, the governor's recommended budget includes the full $20.9 million of coronavirus state fiscal recovery funds allocation in the base budget for both fiscal year 24 and 25, which doubles the amount of funding authorized by the IFC. The agency included 4 decision units related to the continuation of the NCGIS modernization project. In Decision Unit E246, the governor recommends $18 million in ARPA coronavirus state fiscal recovery funds to continue funding the base Unisys charges, vendor services, operating expenses, and Unisys scope increases. Unisys is the vendor responsible for providing computer programming and related services to replace their existing NCGIS used for storing and accessing criminal justice information in Nevada. Decision Unit E247, the governor recommends $1.7 million in ARPA coronavirus state fiscal recovery funds, a reduction of $434,009 of general fund appropriations, and an increase to the reserves of $1.3 million over the 23-25 biennium to continue funding 8 positions assigned to the NCGIS modernization project. This decision unit would substitute ARPA coronavirus state fiscal recovery funds instead of division's fee funding to support the existing positions. Decision Unit E248, the governor recommends $1.1 million in coronavirus state fiscal recovery funds to fund 6 new NCGIS program specialist positions and 1 new NCGIS program specialist supervisor position to provide help desk services to non-criminal justice system users. Currently, the Enterprise IT Service Division provides all help desk services for criminal justice users, while the agency handles non-criminal justice accounts through a manual process that includes phone calls, email, and mail. Since the agency would not rely heavily on manual processes upon the completion of the NCGIS project, the new positions would focus on evaluating issues presented by customers and provide technical assistance in the system's portal. Due to the required operational hours of the Brady Point of Contact Firearms Program, the 7 new positions would be the minimum number of staff needed to provide service desk support 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. The role of the NCGIS program specialist supervisor encompasses not only the responsibilities of the NCGIS program specialist, but also includes the management of 6 new positions designated to the service desk. Decision Unit E249, the governor recommends $76,000 and $76,015 in coronavirus state fiscal recovery funds in fiscal year 2025 to fund the scope changes for special warrants and records validation program requirements. Fiscal staff would note this recommendation exceeds the coronavirus state fiscal recovery fund allocation approved by the IFC, and the agency indicated it could offset these expenses through cost savings in coronavirus state fiscal recovery funds or by using its reserves. During the March 16, 2023 hearing, the subcommittee expressed interest in the agency's strategy concerning the new and existing positions have been requested to support the NCGIS modernization project. In response, the agency provided information regarding its approach towards the management of these positions. The agency disclosed that the existing 8 positions would be retained to support the NCGIS project through the biennium indicating these positions are pivotal to providing support for NCGIS processes and ensuring the success of the modernization project. Upon the completion of the modernization project, the agency plans to reclassify the deputy administrator position to a division administrator and retain one business process analyst to facilitate ongoing enhancements, modernizations, and system changes driven by new legislation. The remaining 6 positions would be evaluated to determine whether they would be retained, eliminated, or transferred to the director's office to join the proposed research and planning technology team, contingent upon the approval. The agency also emphasized that many of the wait times for its customers currently faced would be significantly reduced upon the completion of the modernization project. However, despite these anticipated efficiencies, the agency stated that it would not be eliminating positions in this biennium or the 2025 through 27 biennium, instead would retain all of its positions through the 2025-27 biennium to evaluate how the completion of the modernization project would impact its internal processes and make determinations about eliminating positions that may be redundant given the new NCGIS capabilities. Fiscal staff would note that the governor recommends $76,015 in coronavirus state fiscal recovery funds to fund scope in fiscal year 2025 to fund scope changes for the special warrants and records validation program. Since the agency indicated it could offset these expenses through cost savings in the coronavirus state fiscal recovery funds or utilizing reserves, fiscal staff recommends decision unit E249 not be approved as budgeted. There are some noted technical adjustments for the NCGIS project. Fiscal staff recommends a technical adjustment to align the agency's projected NCGIS expenses with the corresponding coronavirus state fiscal recovery fund authority in each fiscal year, which would result in a reduction of $10.3 million of coronavirus state fiscal recovery fund authority in fiscal year 2024, and a reduction of $10.6 million of coronavirus state fiscal recovery fund authority in fiscal year 2025. Additionally, during the April 6, 2023 IFC meeting, the committee authorized the agency to use $1.5 million of the $20.9 million coronavirus state fiscal recovery funds allocated towards the NCGIS project in the 2023-25 biennium. The committee expressed interest in the agency utilizing available federal funding first before depleting its agency's reserves. Fiscal staff recommends an additional reduction of $1.5 million of coronavirus state fiscal recovery fund budget authority in fiscal year 2025 with a corresponding use of fee reserves. In decision unit E247, fiscal staff recommends a technical adjustment to eliminate the reduction of general funds in decision unit E247, which would result in an increase of $434,009 in fee reserves. If the continuation of the NCGIS modernization project is approved, the subcommittee may wish to recommend the issuance of a letter of intent directing the agency to report on a semi-annual basis to the IFC the status and progress of the modernization project and the expenditure of coronavirus state fiscal recovery funds over the 23-25 biennium, as coronavirus state fiscal recovery funds must be obligated by December 31st, 2024 and expended by December 31st, 2026. There are 3 decisions for the subcommittee to consider. Decision 1, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of decision units E246, E247, and E248 to support the continuation of the Nevada Criminal Justice Information System Modernization Project as recommended by the governor, including the noted technical adjustments? And does the subcommittee wish to not recommend approval of decision unit E249, which in combination with the approval of decision number one, would result in a total of $19.4 million in coronavirus state fiscal recovery funds and $621,303 in fee reserves over the 2023-25 biennium? If so, does the subcommittee wish to recommend the issuance of a letter of intent directing the agency to report on a semi-annual basis to the IFC to provide updates on the status and progress of the modernization project and the expenditure of American Rescue Plan Act coronavirus state fiscal recovery funds over the 2023-25 biennium?
Thank you very much for that overview, Mr. Miller. And as we continue to go through this, I just want to take some time to recognize all the hard work that our staff put in on evaluating these budgets and working, and also recognize DPS for all their work with our staff to figure out the best path forward. And at the risk of oversimplifying all of that work, where we're at on this particular item is, again, making sure that we get those ARPA dollars that have the expiration date, that we use those first, and then go into reserves to cover any of the costs, additional costs to get this completed on the tail end. You know, we are very excited about this. We've had the remaining major modernization projects, it seems, that haven't been scrapped are before this subcommittee, and we hope that we get them all successfully landed over the next couple of years, and are glad to provide whatever support is needed to make sure that that happens. But as we discussed with another one of these projects, want to continue getting some regular updates about those programs so that we don't have any surprises and we can understand how we are progressing towards that finish line. So with that, members, do you have any questions on this item? Assemblywoman Dickman.
Thanks. I'm not sure if the question's appropriate, but the table that has task names on page 26, can anyone tell me what a CCW hot file is?
Sounds like that's a question for the agency. Whoever knows it, come on down. Thank you so much for joining us. Whenever you're ready, just state your name for the record and please.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Watts and members of the committee. My name is Julie Ornelas, and I'm the CGIS Modernization Program Administrator. And sorry, I just had back surgery, so I'm a little slow here. So your question, Senator Anderson, was about the CCW hot file. Oh, Dickman, yes, thank you, sorry. The CCW hot file is a query that agencies, criminal justice agencies, would run to determine if an individual has a CCW. And it gives information about that individual's like CCW permit number, if it's been revoked, where it's issued out of what county, and that type of information.
So if there's some sort of infraction and you're doing, or is it just a random, or why do you do these checks?
So the CCW hot file is basically, for example, like if an officer pulls over an individual in a traffic stop, and they run queries to make sure, you know, who they've pulled over, if there's, you know, any kind of warrants or anything like that through queries. It also would query to see if they have a CCW. So if they do find like a firearm or something like that, they know that they legitimately, you know, have that, you know, carry permit.
Okay, so this chart says that it's 17% complete. Does that mean you have lots to enter yet?
So this, thank you for the question. The CCW hot file is actually considered one of our civil processes, and the civil process includes the CCW database, the CCW hot file, all of our civil functions. So it's not a criminal database, so the first phase of MOD is all the criminal functions, and the CCW queries and everything having to do with that part of the project is at the tail end. So that's due to be delivered in, let's see, that would be like June-ish, May, June of 2024. We may see like it land more in August. Right now we're negotiating with the vendors some changes, but it's about in that particular time frame. So that's why that percentage looks like that. It's in progress.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry to have you come down here with your...
You're totally fine. I appreciate the questions.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you so much, and we wish you well in your recovery. Members, any other questions? Assemblywoman Gorlow.
Thank you, and since you're here, talking about that chart, the knowledge management, it's only 16% complete, and it's supposed to be finished by June of 2023, so there's less than 2 months on that. First, what is the knowledge management, and are you confident you can get that complete in, 7 weeks?
Yes, thank you, Julie Ornelas, for the record. Absolutely. So the knowledge management are basically knowledge articles from our vendor that they have compiled to help, like our our help desk services and our future service desk for civil. They're working to provide it's just like knowledge articles. So if like you give a phone call in to the help desk and they're experiencing an issue with, the portal, or they have questions on the civil databases when, or civil functions when those come online, or criminal justice that are going online next week, it helps that help desk person or service desk individual ask a series of questions to possibly get to a resolution for that individual quickly. So they're finalizing those, and we've gotten the first two big files, actually just about a week ago, with a good majority, and we're reviewing those now.
Thank you so much, Ann.
You're welcome.
Wish you a speedy recovery.
Thank you.
Thank you. And it is worth noting as well that since these numbers were provided to us, the project is moving along constantly.
Thank you for the question. I'm very excited to have that question, actually. We are actually going live with the first phase on May 2nd. So right now, this week, we're in controlled testing. And that's going very well, and that's with all of our federal partners. So like NCIC, NLETS, and III, which is our criminal history. So we've been doing testing. Actually, today is another test. And those are going actually very well. We have, fine tuning to do, and but everything's looking good. And so far, go live is still go live. So we're excited. We'll start 3 in the morning on May 2nd, doing our cutover. Hope to have everything up and running by 6 a.m.
That's wonderful news. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thanks for all your hard work. Members, any other questions? Assemblyman Hafen.
I got a question on the technical adjustments. I don't know if this is the proper time. Okay. So just page 30 on the technical adjustments. First time that I've noticed that we're seeing such a large technical adjustment of 20.9 million. And so I just kind of like to get a better understanding of what we're doing there. Are we completely pulling all of that back? And then we're going to try to reallocate it at a later date? Are we going to send it to IFC to allow them to come before us and IFC to approve the expenditures? I'm just a really large number for technical adjustment. Sorry.
Thank you, and I think Mr. Miller can shed some light on that.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record, through your chair to Assemblyman Hafen. What's occurring here is that in the agency's budget, the authority for their coronavirus authority was double budgeted in fiscal year 2024 and 2025. What this technical adjustment does is bring down the authority to align with the expenses that are budgeted in fiscal year 2024 and 25. It does not reduce the authority that was given to them by the IFC overall over the biennium. So they would still receive the full $20.9 million between fiscal year 2023 to the end of fiscal year 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Members, any other questions? All right, seeing none, I'll turn it over to Chair.
Thank you, Chair Watts. I would move that the subcommittee recommend the approvals as indicated by staff, decisions 1, 2, and 3 on page 31 of the closing document.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and we have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. Our second major issue is excess reserves. The governor recommended budget includes a $10.2 million reserve balance by the end of fiscal year 2025. The recommended $10.2 million reserve balance at the end of fiscal year 25 is $6.9 million, or 129 days, over the 60-day target of $3.2 million. During the March 16, 2023 hearing, the subcommittee inquired about the agency's strategy to utilize its reserves that exceed that 60-day target reserve level. In response, the agency indicated that it would need its reserve to fund ongoing and CGIS program maintenance, support, and positions in the 2025 through 27 biennium. The agency indicates its reserves have grown due to its civil fee-funded programs and emphasizes that its civil fee-funded programs are subsidizing non-fee-funded criminal programs such as the sex offender registry. Fiscal staff notes that NRS 179A 140 indicates that money received or collected by the department for furnishing information relating to records of criminal history must be used to defray the cost of operating the central repository, meaning current statute does not specify non-fee-funded criminal programs must be fully state-funded, nor does it deter using fees collected from civil programs to support non-fee-funded criminal programs. Therefore, the subcommittee could recommend utilizing excess reserves to defray the cost of operating the central repository. During the hearing, the subcommittee expressed interest in exploring options to adjust the recommended reserve levels and directed staff to bring forward options to the closing. The table below demonstrates the agency's projected reserve balance and the projected reserves above the 60-day target over the 23-25 biennium. That table is found on page 33. Based on discussions between fiscal staff and the agency expressed its intention to maintain its excess reserve balance in anticipation of the NCGIS maintenance expenditures of $3.7 million in each fiscal year over the 2025-27 biennium, or to address any unknown cost increases from the implementation of the NCGIS modernization project. As discussed during the budget hearing, there was a discussion to bring down the $3.50 applicant fee increase. However, pursuant to NRS 179A 140, the division has the authority to charge a reasonable fee for information relating to records of criminal history and is not required to regulate its fees through the Nevada Administrative Code. Therefore, although the subcommittee has the authority to reduce the authorization to receive these fees in the budget, the legislator cannot eliminate the $3.50 fee increase without a change in statute. It has been a historical practice that if a budget is provided an unrestricted general fund appropriation, as would be done if major issue number 3 is approved, the fee revenues that any excess of eligible fee revenues would be expended prior to the utilization of general fund, which may result in a general fund reversion at the end of any applicable fiscal year. General fund appropriation and fee revenues are generally not allowed to carry a reserve balance from year to year. Instead, all unspent revenues would revert to the general fund at the end of each fiscal year. Therefore, if the subcommittee wishes to align the budgetary policy for the Records Communications and Compliance Division with the practice applied to other similarly structured budgets, the following should occur to transition this budget to accepted budgetary practice over the 23-25 biennium. To ensure that this budget's current reserves are expended by the end of fiscal year 2025, rather than providing a general fund appropriation to replace court assessment revenue as discussed in major issue number 3, agency reserves should be utilized. This would result in a reduction of budgeted general fund appropriations of $9.3 million over the 23-25 biennium and reduce the projected reserve balance to 0 by the end of fiscal year 2025. Additionally, the intent should be that any fees not committed for expenditure by the end of fiscal year 2025 would then revert to the general fund, and the reserve category would be eliminated in future biennia. Additionally, to ensure that current eligible fees are utilized prior to any newly received fees and that any newly received fees are utilized prior to any general fund appropriations, the subcommittee should direct staff to include additional back language indicating this policy in the Authorizations Act. Currently, fees received by the division must defray the cost of operating the criminal repository. To require that new fees in excess of the authorized expenditures revert to the general fund, the subcommittee should direct staff to develop a budget implementation bill draft request to amend the applicable statutes to allow the use of fees for any purpose authorized by the legislator and require any fees not committed for expenditure to revert to the general fund starting at the end of fiscal year 2025. In summary, applying the budgetary policy to the Records Communications and Compliance Division consistent with other similarly structured budgets would require the division to utilize its current fee reserves for eligible expenditures and eliminate the reserve by the end of fiscal year 2025. In addition, this would provide the division the opportunity to submit a proposal for an operating budget funded with a combination of general fund appropriations and fees for consideration to the 2025 legislature that is consistent with the existing budget policy. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of applying existing budgetary policy regarding the treatment of fee revenues when budgeted in conjunction with general fund appropriations to the Records, Communications, and Compliance Division's budget, such that its budgeting is consistent with the practice applied to other similarly structured budgets by adjusting the funding recommended in major issue number 3 for general fund appropriations to utilizing reserves with the intent to eliminate the budget's fee reserve by the end of fiscal year 2025, and directing fiscal staff to work with the legal division to draft enabling legislation to carry out the budget policy. This option would result in general fund reductions of $9.3 million over the 2023-25 biennium and is contingent on the passage and approval of enabling legislation.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Before I open it up to questions from committee members, again, I want to applaud the work of our staff in particular, as well as the agency in trying to work through some of these things. And, you know, essentially we have budgets that are fee funded, and essentially the backstop to make sure that they can meet their needs is to maintain sufficient reserves. And we also have general funded accounts, which are able to go to the contingency, IFC contingency account, to make sure that they are able to be made whole for any overruns. And so in this account, it was previously completely fee funded. This is, again, something where we're transitioning over to general fund to get away from some of those court administrative assessments. So we're working, and it has very significant reserves. So we're looking to make that kind of transformation by spending down those reserves and move to general fund to replace those court administrative assessments moving forward, as we have done with other budget accounts, with the IFC contingency account being available whenever needed, similar to other general funded budgets, just to again try and simplify a lot of hard work that went into this. So with that, I'd open it up to any questions from members of the committee. Senator Goicoechea.
I just want to make sure I've got this right. Now, it looks like in 2019, we increased the fee by $3.50, but then now we don't need it because we've got the ARPA coronavirus money we backfilled it with. That created the reserve, these huge reserves that we're going to now spend down. But my concern is, okay, where are we in 2025?
Thank you for that, Senator, and it's a good question. So, you know, ultimately, I think there's two pieces to that. As far as where we're going to be in the next biennium, there will be general fund coming in to support whatever isn't met by the fee revenues. I think the other part to your question about fees, there is some information in our backup. You know, the department has the ability, they have pretty broad statutory authority to modify their fees. So we can either look at potentially addressing that in statute. Otherwise, we can ask them to review their fee structure and try and make sure that it is appropriate moving forward. Any reduction in that fee revenue will just, in future biennium, need to be balanced out with general fund.
So you feel there would be an option then in 2025 to either decrease or increase that fee, depending on what the needs were and the general fund needs?
That is correct. That's something that we could discuss and come to, or, well, perhaps not you, but
no,
others can discuss and reach some sort of plan with the agency for that moving forward, and what that appropriate level is. And again, whatever isn't met by fee revenue, general fund will come in to make sure that it's whole for their needs.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. But again, as we look at this, this is going to give us a huge reduction in general fund expenditures for this cycle. And I just, caution you that even though I won't be here, there won't be ARPA dollars either. We hope we don't have another coronavirus. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, that is correct. And hopefully we'll have the NCGIS modernization project, which is the big ticket item in here, buttoned up. So hopefully the expenditure needs will also be going down. So, but I appreciate your comments. Members, any other questions on this item? Seeing none, I would accept a motion.
Thank you, Chair Watts. I would move to recommend approval as indicated and read by staff, also on page 34 of our closing packet.
I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. The third major issue is the funding source change from Court Administrative Assessment to General Fund Appropriations. Since the subcommittee has decided to recommend approval of major issue number 2, this would be in conjunction with major issue number 2. Does the subcommittee wish to not recommend approval of $9.3 million in general fund appropriations, but instead authorize $9.3 million in budgeted reserves to fund the reduction in court administrative assessments? This decision is contingent upon the subcommittee's recommendation to align the budgetary treatment of reserves in this budget with other similarly structured budgets as discussed in major issue number 2.
Thank you. So again, this is kind of a companion item. Members, any questions? Seeing none, Chair Harris.
Thank you, Chair Watts. I would move that the subcommittee wish to not recommend approval of $9.3 million in general fund appropriations, but instead authorize $9.3 million in budgeted reserves to fund the reduction in court administrative assessments.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. There are 7 other closing items in this budget account. Fiscal staff recommends other closing items 1 through 6 be closed as recommended by the governor. Other closing item 7 be closed with the noted technical adjustment, and requests authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you. Any questions on the other closing items? Seeing none, I would accept a motion.
Thank you, Chair Watts. I would move that we recommend other closing items 1 through 6 be closed as recommended by the governor, and other closing item 7 be closed with the noted technical adjustment, and grant staff authority to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. Moving on to the next Department of Public Safety account for the Fire Marshal, budget account 1013816. There are 2 major issues in this budget account. The first major issue is for a new administrative assistant position. The governor recommends fee and transfer revenues of $129,570 over the 2023-25 biennium for a new administrative assistant 3 position and associated expenditures. The administrative assistant role would be responsible for processing construction plans for review, tracking fire and life safety inspections across the state, maintaining current investigation files, and managing public disclosure requests and burn injury notifications, monitoring the vehicle usage and maintenance, and handling bill claims for inspections and plans reviews. If approved, the agency indicates the clerical tasks performed by the fire and safety inspectors would be managed by the new administrative assistant position, freeing up the inspectors to maximize their time in the field and to perform their assigned inspections. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of a new administrative assistant position to assist with clerical duties for the Fire Protection Bureau and the Investigation Enforcement Bureau, including the noted technical adjustment to replace the increase of $129,570 of fee and transfer revenues with funding from budgeted reserves?
Thank you. Members, any questions on this item? Seeing none, I'd accept a motion.
Thank you, Chair Watts. I would move to recommend approval of a new administrative assistant position to assist with clerical duties for the Fire Protection Bureau and the Investigation and Enforcement Bureau, including the noted technical adjustment to replace the increase of $129,570 of fee and transfer revenues with funding from budget reserves.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. Our second major issue is the authorized reserve balance. The governor's budget recommends authorizing a $2 million reserve balance by the end of fiscal year 2025. The recommended $2 million reserve balance at the end of fiscal year 2025 is more than double the projected reserve balance at the end of fiscal year 2023 and may exceed the amount necessary to fund the agency's current level of expenditures. During the February 16, 2023 hearing, the subcommittee sought information about the agency's high reserve levels and questioned if the agency could utilize more of its reserve to add additional full-time positions to help it address its backlogs. The agency confirmed additional positions would help address its backlogs, and it identified it would need 2 additional fire and life safety inspectors in the southern region to reduce turnaround times to 1 week and be proactive about inspections in the southern region. Additionally, the agency indicated adding an additional fire plans examiner and fire life safety inspector in Carson City office would help the agency reach the industry standard turnaround time of less than 10 days for its workload. Following the hearing, the Governor's Finance Office submitted Budget Amendment A230683816 on February 16, 2023, which recommends increasing fee and transfer revenues by $388,921 over the 2023-25 biennium to fund 2 additional fire and life safety inspector 2 positions in the Las Vegas office. According to the agency, there's been an increase in those construction projects in Clark County School District and across the state, causing delays in response times for inspections. Although the number of construction inspections the agency has conducted has continually increased from 2018, the agency has not added additional staffing to support the increase. According to the agency, adding 2 additional fire and life safety inspectors in the South will address backlogs in the Las Vegas office. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend, if all items presented in the fire marshal's budget account are approved, including Budget Amendment A230683816 and fiscal staff's recommended technical adjustments throughout the budget, the agency's reserves would be reduced to $1.4 million, aligning the agency's reserve level to 120 days of operating reserves by the end of fiscal year 2025. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend approving Budget Amendment A230683816, which would add an additional 2 fire and life safety inspector 2 positions to the Southern Nevada region, including the noted technical adjustment to replace the increase of $388,921 of fee and transfer revenue with funding from budgeted reserves?
Thank you very much, Mr. Miller. And before we move to questions again, I just want to take a moment to appreciate both staff as well as the department for their work on this. You know, there was a robust conversation about some of the revenues coming in and some of the needs and the timelines, and very much appreciate the work that's already been done to try and bring some of those backlogs and timelines down. And also just want to express appreciation to the Governor's Finance Office for preparing this amendment, which I think makes a lot of sense. It gets this budget to where it needs to be and improves the service levels for and timelines for several counties throughout the state. Members, are there any questions on this item? All right, seeing none at this time, Chair Harris.
Thank you, Chair Watts. I would move to recommend approving Budget Amendment A230683816, which would add 2 additional fire and life safety inspector 2 positions to the Southern Nevada region, including the noted technical adjustments to replace the increase of $388,921 of fee and transfer revenues with funding from budget reserves.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. There are 16 other closing items in this budget account detailed on page 43. Fiscal staff recommends other closing item 1 through 13 be closed as recommended by the Governor. Other closing items 14 and 15 be closed with the noted technical adjustments, and other closing items 16 be deferred for consideration and discussed during the statewide decision unit's closing, where other statewide grade increases will be considered, and request authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you. Members, any questions on the other closing items? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion.
Thank you, Chair Watts. I would move to recommend other closing items 1 through 13 be closed as recommended by the Governor, other closing items 14 and 15 be closed with no technical adjustments, and other closing items 16 be deferred for consideration and discussion during the statewide decision unit closing, where other statewide grade increases will be considered, and grant staff authority to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. We'll be moving on to our next Department of Public Safety account for the Parole Board, budget account 1013800. There's one major issue in this budget account. The governor recommends general fund appropriations of $255,133 over the 23-25 biennium to fund a new unclassified executive director position and associated costs. The agency indicates it's difficult to address the operational issues due to the current organizational structure of the parole board. Specifically because 2 or more board members form a quorum, the chairman is unable to consult with the commissioners on operational concerns without conducting a public meeting. Pursuant to NRS 213-108, the chairman, who is appointed by the governor, is currently responsible for administering the activities and services of the board. The governor's Office of Finance has submitted a bill draft request to amend NRS 213 to delegate operational responsibilities to the executive director subject to the supervision of the chairman. The chairman would appoint the executive director, who would be responsible for overseeing several areas, and would also manage the activities and services of the agency's fiscal unit, grant opportunities, and agency staff. An unclassified executive director position, as recommended, as it's been determined that no classified position meets the specifications established by the Department of Administration, Division of Human Resource Management, that would not cause a compaction issues within the agency. During the March 1st, 2023 hearing, the subcommittee questioned why the parole board would need an additional position as not facing a backlog in its operations. In response, the agency indicated that the executive director would be able to handle those administrative duties without triggering the open meeting law. Additionally, the agency stated that 29 of 50 states have a position similar to the executive director. The governor's finance office submitted a bill draft request introduced as AB 462 on April 3rd, 2023 to establish statutory provisions in support of this recommendation. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of the new executive director position for the parole board as recommended by the governor, contingent on the passage and approval of AB 462 or some other enabling legislation?
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Members, any questions on this item? Seeing none, I'd accept a motion.
Thank you, Chair Watts. I move to recommend approval of a new executive director position for the parole board as recommended by the governor, contingent on the passage and approval of AB 462 or some other enabling legislation.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. There are 5 other closing items in this account detailed on page 51. Fiscal staff recommends other closing item 1 through 4 be closed as recommended by the governor, and that other closing item 5 not be approved, and requests authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions on these items? Seeing none, I would accept a motion.
Thank you, Chair Watts. I move to recommend other closing items 1 through 4 be closed as recommended by the governor, and that other closing item 5 not be approved, and grant staff authority to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. That'll bring us to our next budget account for the Department of Public Safety, which is Division of Parole and Probation, budget account 1013740. There are 3 major issues in this account. The first major issue are the caseload changes. The governor recommends staffing level adjustments resulting in a net addition of 9 positions supported by general fund appropriations of $1.2 million over the 23-25 biennium based on caseload projections provided by the James F. Austin and Associates Institute. The James F. Austin and Associates Institute is a consultant contracted to review and analyze the projected caseloads for the Nevada Department of Corrections and the Division of Parole and Probation. During the March 1st, 2023 hearing, the subcommittee questioned whether the caseload adjustments as recommended by the governor would result in any layoffs. In response, the agency indicated that 3 parole and probation specialist 4 positions recommended for elimination in Decision Unit M201 did have incumbents and would result in incumbent having to take a voluntary demotion to a parole and probation specialist 3 position, or that they would be laid off. However, the agency has submitted its updated actual caseload information from JFA based on the updated projections provided by JFA, and using the agency's updated actual caseload data, there are various changes to position additions and eliminations. The 2021 legislatively approved staff ratios, actual fiscal year 2022 caseloads, and projected caseloads for fiscal year 2023, 2024, and 2025, based upon the JFA Associates Updated caseload projections received on March 27th, 2023 are provided in the table on page 54. In Decision Unit M201, this would adjust the non-sworn positions responsible for pre-sentence investigations. In accordance with the caseload changes submitted to fiscal staff and in alignment with the approved statewide staffing ratios, the caseload reflects the workload need of not eliminating 3 parole and probation specialist 4 positions as recommended by the governor, and the addition of 1 parole and probation specialist 3 position as a result of pre-sentence investigation categories increasing over the 2023-25 biennium. As a result of the revised caseload projection, fiscal staff recommends a technical adjustment to adjust Decision Unit M201 by removing the elimination of the 3 parole and probation specialist 4 positions and adding the new parole and probation specialist 3 position. If approved, Decision Unit M201 would result in a general fund appropriation of $45,945 and county reimbursements of $107,205 over the 2023-25 biennium, as compared to the reduction of the $564,311 in general fund appropriations recommended by the governor. In Decision Unit M202, in accordance with the caseload projections submitted to staff on March 27, 2023, and aligned with the 2021 legislatively approved statewide staffing ratios, the caseload reflects the addition of 8 Department of Public Safety Officer 2 positions in fiscal year 2024, which is an increase of 2 positions compared to the governor's recommended budget, and additional 3 Officer 2 positions in fiscal year 2025 as recommended by the governor, for a total of 11 new DPS Officer 2 positions. Additionally, based on the updated caseload, 1 DPS Sergeant position is supported, a decrease of 3 positions compared to the governor's recommended budget over the 2023-25 biennium as a result of regular supervision, very high risk, and sex offender categories increasing over the 2023-25 biennium. Comparably, 3 parole and probation specialist 3 positions would be eliminated due to low-risk supervision categories being projected as having lower caseload over the 2023-25 biennium, a decrease of 1 compared to the governor's recommended budget. Lastly, 1 DPS lieutenant position would be eliminated over the 23-25 biennium to align with the supervision ratio of 1 DPS lieutenant per 3 DPS sergeants. Regarding the elimination of 1 DPS lieutenant position based upon the updated caseload supervisory projections, all lieutenant positions are currently filled, and eliminating this position would likely result in laying off the current incumbent. Due to the current vacancy rates of sworn staff, the subcommittee may wish to recommend retaining this position over the 2023-25 biennium and direct the agency to leave this position unfilled should this position become vacant, unless revised projections demonstrate the supervisory need. Since the funding for this position is included in the base budget, no technical adjustments would be needed if this position is retained. Decision Unit M204 adjusts the sworn, non-sworn positions responsible for warrants and pre-release. In accordance with the updated caseload projections received on March 27th and aligned with the 2021 approved statewide staffing ratios, the caseload reflects the addition of 1 parole and probation specialist 2 position as a result of pre-release categories increasing over the 23-25 biennium. The addition of the parole and probation specialist 2 position is consistent with the governor's recommended budget. However, the updated caseload projection also supports the elimination of 1 parole and probation specialist 4 position to align the caseload ratios of the pardons investigations categories. If approved, Decision Unit M204 would result in a net decrease of $11,630 in general fund appropriations over the 2023-25 biennium, while all parole probation specialist 4 positions are shown in the state's human resource data as currently filled. Decision Unit E226 in Major Issue Number 2 recommends the addition of new parole and probation specialist 4 positions. There are 2 decisions for the subcommittee: whether to recommend approval of general fund appropriations of $1.4 million and county reimbursements of $107,205 over the 2023-25 biennium to fund caseload changes that would result in a net addition of 9 positions over the 2023-25 biennium based on the updated March 2023 caseload projections, and general fund appropriations of $313,498,000 over the 2023-25 biennium to retain the DPS lieutenant position recommended for elimination in Decision Unit M202, with the intent that the agency would leave the position unfilled once the position becomes vacant, unless updated supervisory caseload projections support the need for this position.
Thank you very much, Mr. Miller. And essentially, members, what's in item B. So again, first of all, appreciate all the work that was done to get these caseload projections updated and make sure all the books are in order in this budget account. After all of that, there is essentially one position that we have that is currently filled, that could be at risk of getting laid off or would have to transfer to some other agency in the state. And given all of the issues that we've had, we do not want to end up in that position. So we want to make sure that we are able to maintain that position through the biennium despite these caseload adjustments. So that's really what we have in item number B. Members, are there any questions on this decision unit? Seeing none, I would accept a motion.
Thank you, Chair Watts. I would move to recommend approval as read by staff, both A and B, on page 56 of our closing document.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Go ahead, Senator Gochia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess, we're still looking at recruitment and retention, and, we're not really talking about the vacancy rate. We're looking at maintaining this one lieutenant in place because we don't want to lose anybody. But I'm just kind of, from the agency, I mean, are they going to be able to fill these 9 positions?
Thank you for that, Senator. And obviously, that's been a recurring conversation with the department across many of these different divisions and budget accounts in our hearings. I think it is a concern. I think we're making our best attempt from the 2 bump increase for officers, as well as trying to make some significant across the board investments to improve take-home pay, both in the COLAs and some of the PERS things that we're looking at across state agencies to try and address that. And honestly, we're shortly going to reach a decision unit where the issue of ability to fill vacancies is going to become extremely clear. But I think, when it comes to this one, we're just kind of going to follow our historic practice of modifying what the positions are based on vacancies, make sure that when we've got a position filled that we're not going to lay somebody off, and hope that some of the other things that we're doing and some of the other recruitment and retention initiatives that that DPS and parole and probation are putting forth are going to help us get these positions filled so that we can meet the needs that we have.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I think we all appreciate that. It's just a concern, and I want to get it on the record.
I understand and appreciate that. Members, any other questions? Or discussion, I believe, because we are on the motion. So, seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. Moving on to major issue number 2 on page 56. The governor recommends general fund appropriations of $1 million over the 23-25 biennium to fund the addition of 6 new parole and probation specialists, 4 positions, and associated costs, and adjust the previously approved 1-to-8 supervision ratio of parole and probation specialists 3s to 1-to-4. The 2021 legislature approved funding for a study on the workload of the agency's 10 parole and probation specialist 4 positions in the court services unit. The purpose of that study was to determine the appropriate workload ratio for these positions. The results of the study indicated that the current staffing ratio was inadequate, which did not allow enough time for writing surplus pre-sentence investigation reports, training the agency's current 64 parole and probation specialist 3 positions, and handling administrative tasks in the court services unit. According to the staffing study report, if the division were to fill all 64 parole and probation specialist 3 positions, authorized base budget positions, and fully train them, it would need a total of 17 parole and probation specialist 4 positions, which would be 7 new positions, to read all the reports and write surplus pre-sentence investigation reports. During the March 1st, 2023 hearing, the subcommittee questioned how adjusting the supervision ratio of parole and probation specialist 4s to parole and probation specialist 3s to 1-to-4 from 1-to-8 would improve the agency's ability to deliver pre-sentence investigation reports in a timely manner. In response, the agency indicated that its current staff has been working overtime to submit pre-sentence investigation reports 15 days prior to a defendant's court sentencing date, and has been communicating with district courts to try and push back the sentencing dates of out-of-custody defendants to allow the agency more time to complete its pre-sentence investigation reports. However, the agency has had mixed success coming to an agreement with various district courts and indicates the additional parole and probation specialist 4 positions would be needed to meet the demand of the current pre-sentence investigation reports workload. The agency stated if approved, it plans to fill as many of the new positions as it can by promoting internally, but mentioned it would take the time to hire and train new incumbents to fill the roles of the parole and probation specialist 3 positions that were promoted. Since the parole and probation specialist 3 positions are the primary pre-sentence investigation report writers, the agency anticipates delays in service as it works to fill those positions. I did want to note that there is a caseload adjustment associated with this decision unit based on the subcommittee's recommendation for approval of decision unit M201. The subcommittee may wish to also consider aligning the number of positions needed to maintain the new staffing ratio with the updated caseload projections, which would result in 3 additional positions beyond what is included in the governor's recommendation for the court services unit. Based on the updated caseload projections, an additional 2 parole and probation specialist 4 positions would be needed to establish a supervision ratio of 1:4, and parole and probation specialist 3 positions. Additionally, the agency would need an additional parole and probation specialist supervisor position to align the supervision ratio of 1:8, parole and probation specialist 3s to 4s. The additional positions would result in a general fund appropriation of $151,141 and county reimbursements of $352,665 over the 23-25 biennium. If the noted technical adjustments and caseload adjustments were approved, 8 new parole and probation specialist 4 positions and 1 new parole and probation supervisor position would be added over the 23-25 biennium, resulting in a total of $460,676 in general fund appropriations and $1.1 million in county reimbursements over the 23-25 biennium. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend approving a new supervision ratio of parole and probation specialist 4 positions to parole and probation specialist 3 positions to 1:4 in the court services unit, including the noted technical adjustments and caseload adjustment to align the number of positions and funding sources, resulting in a general fund appropriation of $460,676 and county reimbursements of $1.1 million over the 23-25 biennium?
Thank you very much, Mr. Miller. Members, any questions? Seeing none, I'd accept a motion.
Thank you, Chair Watts. I would move to recommend approving a new supervision ratio of parole and probation specialist 4 positions to parole and probation specialist 3 positions to 1:4 in the court services unit, including the no technical adjustments and caseload adjustment to align the number of positions and funding sources, resulting in general fund appropriations of $460,676 and county reimbursements of $1.1 million over the 2023-2025 biennium.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. Moving on to major issue number 3, it's starting on page 58, would reestablish the state-funded house arrest program. The governor recommends a $1 million general fund appropriation over the 23-25 biennium to reestablish the state-funded house arrest program originally approved by the 2017 legislature to reduce the number of offenders in Nevada's prisons. The house arrest program was originally initiated in 2008, however, it was not funded over the 21-23 biennium due to reductions caused by the COVID pandemic. The agency seeks to reinstate and broaden the scope of the state-funded program, which serves as an intermediary penalty for individuals who violate the terms of their parole and probation. During the March 1st, 2023 hearing, the subcommittee sought additional details about the state-funded house arrest program, including how much the division would pay for each offender on the program, the offender's income requirements, and the vendor's accepted methods of payment. In response, the agency indicated that the cost per offender ranges from $7.75 to $13.75 per day for the house arrest devices and monitoring. Additionally, the agency is in the process of modifying its existing financial hardship form for the purpose of determining income requirements to qualify for the state-funded house arrest program. However, the agency did clarify offenders with an income below the 200% federal poverty level would automatically qualify, and those who make between 200% to 300% of the federal poverty level would be assessed on a case-by-case basis. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of $1 million in general fund appropriations over the 23-25 biennium to fund the reinstatement and expansion of the state-funded house arrest program as recommended by the governor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Miller. And again, thank you to Parole and Probation for providing some additional clarity on the how folks qualify for financial hardship with some of those, to get support with some of those costs. Members, any questions on this item? Seeing none, I would accept a motion.
Thank you, Chair Watts. I would move to recommend approval of $1 million in general fund appropriations over the 2023-25 biennium to fund the reinstatement and expansion of the state-funded house arrest program as recommended by the governor.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division for the record. There are 6 other closing items detailed on page 60. Fiscal staff recommends other closing items 1 through 4 be closed as recommended by the governor. Items 5 and 6 be deferred for consideration until other statewide grade increases are considered, and request authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions? Seeing none, I'd accept a motion.
Thank you, Chair Watts. I would move to recommend other closing items 1 through 4 be closed as recommended by the governor. Items 5 and 6 be deferred for consideration until other statewide grade increases are considered, and grant staff authority to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division for the record. Moving on to our next budget account, the Department of Public Safety is the Highway Safety Plan and Admin. Budget account 1014688. There is one major issue in this account. The governor recommends $186,465,000 in federal fund transfers from the traffic safety budget over the 23-25 biennium for a new grants and project analyst 3 position and associated expenditures. The agency anticipates that the approval of the new grants and project analyst position would aid in overseeing both current and new program planning, subrecipient grants, and the performance of grant criteria. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend $186,465 in federal funds for a new grants and projects analyst 3 position in the programs office as recommended by the governor?
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, I'd accept a motion.
Thank you, Chair Watts. I move to recommend $186,465 in federal funds for a new grants and projects analyst 3 position in the programs office as recommended by the governor.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division for the record. There are 6 other closing items in this budget account detailed on page 64. Fiscal staff recommends other closing items 1 through 5 be closed as recommended by the governor. Other closing item 6 be closed with a noted technical adjustment, and requests authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, I accept a motion.
Thank you, Chair Watts. I would move to close, to recommend other closing items 1 through 5 be closed as recommended by the governor. Other closing items 6 be closed with a noted technical adjustment, and grant staff the authority to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division for the record. Moving on to the next budget count for the Department of Public Safety for the Nevada Highway Patrol Division, budget count 2014713, starting on page 67. There are 3 major issues in this budget account. The first major issue is 28 new sworn positions. The governor recommends a $5.5 million highway fund appropriation to fund 22 new Department of Public Safety DPS Officer 2 positions and 6 new DPS Sergeant positions and associated costs over the 23 to 25 biennium. Due to the increasing population and job growth in Nevada, the agency indicates the 28 new sworn positions would be needed to increase coverage of 4 different districts throughout Nevada. During the March 16, 2023 hearing, the subcommittee raised concerns regarding the ability of the agency to fill 28 new sworn positions given the high vacancy rates. In response to this concern, the agency acknowledged that the recruitment and retention challenges were significant, but believes that it has a responsibility to address actual coverage needs Furthermore, the agency expressed optimism that the compensation issues, which are the primary reasons for retention challenges, would be addressed this legislative session, leading to an improvement in hiring efforts and subsequent reduction in vacancy levels. The training division currently operates 4 peace officer standards and training certified academies for new cadets each fiscal year, including 2 academies in the north in Carson City and 2 in the south in Las Vegas. The training division indicates it has the capacity to accommodate up to 164 cadets per year between both locations. However, over the 21-23 biennium, the training division reports the number of cadets that have successfully completed the academy total 95, which represents a graduation rate of 77.2%. Of the 95 cadets that completed the academy, 47 were allocated to the Highway Patrol Division. As seen in the table below, as seen in the table on page 69, Highway Patrol currently has 134 vacant DPS Officer 2 positions as of April 22nd, 2023. If the additional 22 DPS Officer 2 positions recommended by the governor were approved, this would bring the current number of vacant DPS Officer 2 positions to 156. In order to fill all of Highway Patrol DPS Officer 2 positions over the 23-25 biennium, the training division would need to exceed its full capacity of 164 cadets per year based on its current graduation rate of 77.2% and increase the percentage of cadets assigned to Highway Patrol, which is about half, and or recruit officers who are already post-certified to the division. There are a few decisions for the subcommittee. Whether to recommend approval of A, $5.5 million in highway fund appropriations over the 23-25 biennium to fund the addition of 22 new DPS Officer 2 positions and 6 new DPS Sergeant positions to expand law enforcement coverage as recommended by the governor, or B, approve the governor's funding recommendation but allocate the $5.5 million highway fund appropriation to the Interim Finance Committee's contingency account as a restricted allocation, which would require the division to demonstrate to the Interim Finance Committee that the agency has filled or is in the process of filling existing vacancies prior to receiving the funding for additional positions, or C, not recommend approval of the highway fund appropriations of $5.5 million over the 23-25 biennium to fund 22 new DPS Officer 2 positions and 6 new DPS Sergeant positions, and request that the division return next legislative session with a proposal for additional positions for consideration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Miller. And I think we're going to ask somebody from Highway Patrol to come up so that we can discuss this a little bit. And again, I know that we did already have some of this conversation previously, but particularly when we look at, so I know that there's a proposal to add sergeants, and it looks like the last information we had was that there were 6 sergeant vacancies out of 60, but there were 123 DPS Officer 2 vacancies. A 31% vacancy rate, and just trying to figure out, what it would take. It seems like it's outside the current academy capacity for us to be able to fill those 123 vacancies. And so while I understand the needs for those positions, I mean, it sounds like you're already very likely going to be recruiting and trying to figure out where you can put officers to best meet your needs that are already currently established before we get to the point of adding additional positions, particularly with the Officer 2s. So, and with some of the considerations about, utilization of highway funds for other things, including making sure that we get those 2 grade bumps for officers, that we get some of those cost of living adjustments and some of the adjustments to folks' PERS rates. There are some other needs that we could potentially move those dollars to help assist with. So that's kind of I think the concern that we have at this point on this decision, and I'd love to turn it over to Ms. Brigham and to Highway Patrol to provide some additional context to us.
Sherry Brigham, for the record, Deputy Director for the Department of Public Safety. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
The issue really for us is that we've gone through so many years without actually telling this committee and the Assembly that we aren't staffed, even if we were 100% anywhere near what we need to be. So funding for those positions, we don't believe is necessary because we agree with you. We won't get to that number. But we'd like the tick marks, we'd like the PCNs, so that in the next biennium, there'll be no problem moving forward with getting into those positions. So we were very interested in the B option rather than the no funding and no positions for that purpose. Otherwise, we have to go through the arguments and discussions. I don't mean arguments, pardon me. With a new legislature next biennium and start all over again, it would be helpful to have a hand up. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Chair Harris?
Thank you, Chair Watts. I very much appreciate the idea of being able to kind of have the fight now. Let's all agree the positions are needed and not have to have the fight later. My question, however, is about the impact of holding on to that $5.5 million in the highway fund, very much knowing that we probably aren't going to be able to use it for this given purpose right now. Could you just discuss maybe why it might be worth it?
Sherry Brighamman, for the record. I agree that in my world, I wouldn't hold on to it either. And what we would like is just the PCNs to remain vacant and remain unfunded for this biennium. But they are up for funding in the next biennium, depending on our ability to fill them.
And would there be any potential negative impact of not being able to use that 5.5 otherwise because we're kind of holding them for these positions that are vacant? Are the road projects we could, I mean, well, I guess you guys don't do road projects, but I mean, my worry is that there are other things we need to use that money for now instead of holding it for positions we know we won't fill.
Sherry Brighamman, for the record, I agree with you. I don't believe you need to hold the money. I don't believe there's any chance that we're going to get to that number and need those positions. What we'd really like is for the PCNs to exist vacant and unfunded, so that by the next biennium, those positions are in place and we can be ready to fill them.
Thank you. I believe Assemblyman Hafen has a question.
Yes, Mr. Chair, and it may end up being more of a statement than a question, so apologize in advance. I do like funding these positions and respectfully disagree. Hopefully, we're able to, in the pay bill, address the compensation issues that are currently going with DPS. Because I believe that that is a huge problem and why you're not able to hire for these positions and they continue to stay vacant. And I think that if we do address that and make these jobs more attractive, that you're going to need to come back to IFC and ask us for additional funds. And so difference of opinion here with my colleagues. I do feel, and no disrespect, but I do feel that if we get there with the pay bill, that you will be filling these positions, and then you'll be coming back to us begging us for additional funds that we don't allocate if we don't do it here. And so to me, option B would be the way that I would feel more comfortable going, and a respectful disagreement, because I do feel hopeful that we are going to address everything in the pay bill down the road. So more of a statement, Mr. Chairman. Sorry for that, but thank you for the time.
Thank you, and obviously we're having some robust discussions on this right now, trying to figure out all the different options. One of the things that I will say is I actually don't think there's a big disagreement or difference of opinion. One of the issues is, again, when we looked at some of the backup information, I also believe that what we're going to do for state employees and for officers is going to help, and it's going to help get that number down. ultimately, we don't have the academy capacity to fill all the vacant positions over this next biennium that we have. We would have to increase the size of the academy, the graduation rate of the academy, or the percentage of those academy graduates that are going into highway patrol. Some combination, probably a mix of all of the above, in order to fill what we've got, let alone build. And so I think we all agree that we want to make sure that we're set up both with a compensation structure and some of the other efforts to get to that point. I'm just, I think in reality, we are not going to be able to get all of that done and move into filling some of these additional proposed positions during this biennium. Ms. Brigham?
Sherry Brigham, for the record. My financial manager suggested that perhaps we would never get to these positions until the second year anyhow, so we don't need them funded for the first year at all. So we could drop off half of that right away, or even get it down to a quarter if that gives us a little miracle bump. But I do agree that we won't get them all filled by the biennium, and certainly not right away in the first year.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and we have, that was definitely something that I know Chair Harris and I had were considering how we could try and do that, and also want to make it really clear that we do want to see these positions built in, and so that's definitely been the intent no matter what. And we do understand kind of the concern that even if we provide direction for that potentially that is still something that has to get built in as a budget enhancement in the next cycle and go through this discussion with potentially a whole different cast of characters. So we'll go to Senator Goicoechea, and then we may have an idea here.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess as I look at B, and it is a restricted allocation, but it's not a bad place to have $5 million in it, even though it is restricted. It is still an IFC. Yes, and technically, correct me, staff, that could only go to DPS. But I mean, would that not also give us the ability to transfer some of these money into, say, parole and probation? It's all in public safety. It's not a bad place to have $5 million that we control, that is uncommitted and in reserve.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate that. Obviously, again, if we actually allocate the funds, then with those vacancy savings, it could be moved to other things. Again, I think this can help us with this $5.5 million can help us do the pay bill things that we need to do to help fill these vacancies, and every little bit helps when it comes to doing some of those things. But I do understand that, yes, if we did budget that, then it could be shifted through work programs to potential other needs, either within this budget or elsewhere.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got my Levi's on. They're a little cheaper than the rest, so I'm just trying to save money. Thank you.
Hey, all right, I appreciate that. And in conversations with some fiscal staff trying to figure out, there might be the opportunity to figure out a way that we can create these positions but not fund them. But I think we need some additional time to figure that out. And so in order to do that, I think what we're going to do is defer this decision to the full joint committees. But I think, again, I've made my intention clear. I think Chair Harris will also kind of make it clear in a motion that we want to get this, we do want to get this settled, and we're hoping that we can find a way to settle the debate about the need for those positions this session, but also make sure that we have the flexibility to take funding and put it where we need it right now. Assemblyman Hafen.
And I do just have a question. In some of the highway patrol offices, I mean, we've historically never filled them, and this is more for fiscal, but if we do as the senator said, my senator said, and have those funds sitting there, you know, I know a lot of times they'll call the local county to help assist them in highway patrol issues to, you know, fulfill the needs of the communities. And I don't know if sometimes those funds are then allocated to the counties or not, but would there be an opportunity for the counties then to apply for some of those funds if they were doing the, you know, highway patrol portion of the work in their counties that don't have highway patrol coverage?
Before I turn, I'll just say that sounds like a whole other concept.
We can follow up offline.
I think the answer to that is no, so. But I appreciate your creativity, Assemblyman. Mr. Hartz.
Thank you, Chair Watts. For the record, Alex Hartz. Just for clarification on the discussion that's taking place with regard to if the funding under option B was in fact allocated as restricted allocation to the contingency account, it would be limited to the highway patrol. If you wanted to make those funds available to the department as a whole, as Senator Goycochea intimated in regards to perhaps parole and probation or some other component of the department, then you would want to do a restricted allocation to the department, not just the highway patrol.
Thank you. Again, I think we need a little bit more time to figure this out. So I think we should probably defer this, but also make our intention clear so that we try and all get on the same page by the time we get done with this. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Chair Harris if you have any remarks, and then to attempt a motion.
Thank you, Chair Watts. No remarks. I'll just see if I can summarize our discussion in a succinct motion, and staff can kick me under the table if I'm doing something that's impossible. I would move that the subcommittee recommend that the 28 positions be allocated but not funded, if possible, and defer the final decision to the full subcommittee.
Second. Let's get some confirmation.
Did we do this right?
For the record, Alex Hartz, I believe that works in terms of what staff understands the direction. The decision then to go to the full committee for consideration would be the funding component of it. Is that what I understand the motion to be in terms of, because staff will need to determine whether, in fact, the position control numbers as requested by the department can in fact be established. That's probably the first test before we can go further.
Yeah, and I'll just say my understanding of the motion is we're going to defer this decision right now to see if we can do that and see if there's a way that we can clearly establish these positions, but do that in a way where we don't have to obligate funds to them, and so provide some of that direction. And if we can figure out the way to do that, we'll do that. If not, we're just going to defer this overall decision to the full committee to figure out the best path forward.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Watts. I think that a little bit of additional clarification is helpful. We would like to recommend that we take that option if it is in fact possible. If it is not possible, then the full committee, of course, will have to consider a variety of other options.
I think we did it. Any discussion?
And further discussion.
Further discussion. All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. Moving on to major issue number 2, starting on page 70. The governor recommends highway fund appropriations of $449,268 over the 23-25 biennium and an increase of $32,760 in cost allocation reimbursements in fiscal year 2025 to fund 2 new communication system specialist 2 positions and one new equipment mechanic position and associated costs over the 23-25 biennium. The agency is in the process of preparing for the adoption of new digital P25 radios as part of a statewide initiative headed by the Nevada Department of Transportation, and the agency states it does not currently have the capacity to perform this annual maintenance without the additional 2 communication specialist 2 positions. Also, the agency is proposing the creation of the new equipment mechanic 4 position to assist with the increasing workload of vehicle maintenance and repair in the Southern Fleet Shop. There's a technical adjustment noted on page 71 for this issue. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of 2 new communication specialist 2 positions and 1 new equipment mechanic 4 position to support the agency's fleet shops as recommended by the governor, including the noted technical adjustment to increase cost allocations by $5,840 with a corresponding decrease in highway fund appropriations in fiscal year 2025?
Thank you, members. Any questions? Seeing none, I'd accept a motion.
Thank you, Chair. I would move to recommend approval of the 2 new communication specialists 2 positions and 1 new equipment mechanic 4 position to support the agency's fleet shops as recommended by the governor, including the noted technical adjustment to increase cost allocation reimbursements by $5,840 with a corresponding decrease in highway fund appropriations in fiscal year 2025.
Second.
Thank you. I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division for the record. The third major issue beginning on page 71 is the governor recommends a $171,052 highway fund appropriation over the 23-25 biennium to fund a new management analyst 3 position and associated costs to support grants, permits, contract services, and programs. According to the agency, fiscal oversight has been historically performed by sworn staff. However, due to the ongoing turnover of sworn staff, has resulted in fiscal reports on the loss of institutional knowledge, leading to missed opportunities to apply for grants. The agency states that the addition of the management analyst 3 position would allow for necessary programmatic oversight to ensure all reporting and performance period deadlines are met. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of $171,052 of highway fund appropriation over the 2023-25 biennium to fund a new management analyst 3 position to oversee fiscal operations, grant management, and program activities at the Nevada Highway Patrol Headquarters Office as recommended by the governor?
Thank you, members. Any questions on this item? Seeing none, I'd accept a motion.
Thank you, Chair Watts. I would move to recommend approval of $171,052 in highway fund appropriation over the 2023-2025 biennium to fund a new management analyst 3 position to oversee fiscal operations, grant management, and program activities at the Nevada Highway Patrol Headquarters Office as recommended by the governor.
Second.
Well done. I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division for the record. There are 13 other closing items in this account detailed on page 73. Fiscal staff recommends other closing item 1 through 11 be closed as recommended by the governor. Other closing items 12 and 13 be deferred to the statewide decision unit closing, where other statewide grade increases will be considered, and request authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion.
Thank you, Chair Watts. I would move to recommend other closing items 1 through 11 be closed as recommended by the governor. Other closing items 12 and 13 be deferred to the statewide decision units closing, where other statewide grade increases will be considered, and grant staff authority to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division for the record. I will now begin presenting the budgets that the subcommittee has not previously reviewed for the Department of Public Safety, and which official staff is responsible for developing and closing recommendations. I'll pause following my presentation of each budget to allow for questions. When I have presented the last budget in this group, the chair may wish to ask for a single motion for closing consideration on all budgets for which fiscal staff is responsible for developing recommendations. This will bring us to budget account, the Department of Public Safety's Budget Training Division, budget account 1013775. There are 8 other closing items in this budget account detailed on page 75 and 76. Are there any questions on this budget account?
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Record, or LCB Fiscal Analysis Division for the record. The next budget account will be for the cigarette fire safety standards and firefighter support, budget account 1013819. There's one other item in this budget account. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Members, any questions on this budget? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next.
Thank you, Chair. Moving on to, or Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division for the record. Moving on to the next budget account, which is for the Department of Public Safety, or Department of Public Safety, Traffic Safety, budget account 1014687. There are no major closing items in this account. Is there any questions?
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next.
The next budget account is the Department of Public Safety Motorcycle Safety Program, budget account 1014691. There are 5 other closing items in this account. Happy to take questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Members, any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division for the record. The next budget account would be the Department of Public Safety's Records, Communications, and Compliance, budget account 1014702. There are 5 other closing items in this account. Happy to take questions.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next account.
The next account for the Department of Public Safety is forfeitures, law enforcement, budget account 1014703. There's one other closing item in this account. Happy to take questions at this time.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Chair Harris?
Thank you, Chair Watts. I was hoping maybe we could have the department come down if there's someone's, you're the pinch hitter. Thank you. I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about what the agency generally uses these funds for, and approximately how much forfeitures you all are getting each year or biennium.
Sherry Brigham for the record. Each year has been decreasing. As you may recall, I believe it was 2 or 3 sessions ago, the state forfeiture restrictions increased. So now, if there is a forfeiture, that the person has to be gone through the entire trial and be found guilty before whatever it is can be seized. So as generally we're moving on, we're seeing fewer and fewer, and most of it's coming from the federal side instead of the state side. As to how much, I'd be guessing. I could get it to you. With regard to what we are spending it on, it's usually training of a significant sort, like the high-end schools where the officer, and it's usually a lieutenant, is going to management police academy type of thing for a great length of time, or the FBI academy, or a number of those type of trainings that are available. Or if one of the divisions, like parole and probation, has been notoriously short in training, we'll bring on a class and pay for that out of forfeitures. So the forfeiture guidelines are very clear about what it can be spent on, and it has to be items that are not budgeted. So we go through, and as a request come up, individually or as a division or as a department, review them against what we have available, because we can't budget forfeitures. So we have to basically encumber everything that we're going to use them for instance, the K-9's significant expense there. And then basically make sure that the funding is never overspent is I guess the question, or the point might be. Bottom line is they're helpful for things when the state is in a difficult situation. Funding for firearms has been supported through that. Through new technology, forfeitures has supported that. Am I missing anything? That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any other questions on this budget account? Thank you very much for coming down and providing that information to us. Mr. Miller, you can proceed to the next budget.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. The next budget account will be for the Department of Public Safety, Nevada Office of Cyber Defense Coordination, budget account 101-4704. There are 2 other closing items in this account. Happy to take questions at this time.
Thank you. Members, any questions on this budget? Seeing none, we'll move on.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. Moving on to the Department of Public Safety's NHP K-9 program, budget account 101-4705. There's 1 other closing item in this budget account. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. Members, any questions on this budget account? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. The next budget account would be the Department of Public Safety Office of Professional Responsibility, budget account 201-4707. There are 8 other closing items in this account. Happy to take questions at this time.
Thank you. Members, any questions on this budget account? Seeing none, we'll move on.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. The next account is the Department of Public Safety Justice Assistance Act, budget account 101-4708. There are no other closing items or major closing items in this budget account. Happy to take questions.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. The next budget account would be the Department of Public Safety's Child Volunteer Background Checks Trust Account, budget account 101-4710. There is 1 other closing item in this budget account. Happy to take questions at this time.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. Moving on to the next budget account would be the Department of Public Safety Highway Safety Grants Account, budget account 201-4721. There are 10 other closing items in this account. Happy to take questions at this time.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, we'll move forward.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. The next budget account would be the Department of Public Safety Capitol Police, budget account 710-4727. There are 10 other closing items in this account. Happy to take questions at this time.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. The next budget account would be the Department of Public Safety State Emergency Response Commission, budget account 201-4729. There are 3 other closing items in this account. I'm happy to take questions at this time.
Thank you. Members, any questions on this budget? Seeing none, we'll move forward.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. The next budget account is the Department of Public Safety's Justice Assistance Grant Trust Account, budget account 101-4734. There are no other closing items or major issues in this budget account.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. The next Department of Public Safety account would be the Justice Grant budget account 101-4736. There are 5 other closing items in this budget account. Happy to take questions at this time.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. The next Department of Public Safety account is the account for reentry programs, budget account 101-4737. There are no major closing issues or other closing items in this budget account. Happy to take questions.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. The next budget account is the Department of Public Safety's Dignitary Protection, budget account 101-4738. There are 5 other closing items in this budget account. Happy to take questions at this time.
Thank you. Members, any questions on dignitary protection? Actually, and we're about to move on to the summary, so I'm going to go ahead and ask it this time. Did anybody have any questions on any of the staff closed budgets before we move towards a motion? Assemblywoman Anderson.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm sorry I was a few minutes behind. On account 101-4737, the account for reentry programs, the money that is listed is only for the donations. Are there other monies that are given to help individuals who are coming back into society? This is only for donations. Is that what I'm understanding in this account?
Thank you for Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis record for the division. Thank you for the question, Assemblywoman Anderson, through you, Chair. That is the only revenue source coming into this budget account at this time.
Go ahead.
So, but just to verify, if there is a different account that has to do with reentry programs for individuals coming back into society after they leave the criminal justice system.
Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record, through you, Chair, to Assemblywoman Anderson. To my knowledge, this is the only account that is established for reentry programs in the Department of Public Safety.
Thank you. I might do some follow-up later with the department then about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, that sounds good. Please do follow up with them offline. Members, any additional questions? Senator Goicoechea.
Just to comment back on Assemblywoman Anderson's last question, I assume the reentry programs would be through DOC rather than this DPS one.
I see some head nods. So, yes, likely different state agencies involved in some of those programs, and we'll be closing the Department of Corrections soon. So we can also potentially discuss some of that then. But do encourage folks to follow up offline to get their questions answered. Members, any additional questions on any of the staff close budgets? Seeing none at this time, I'll turn it back to Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel Miller, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. As previously noted, fiscal staff is responsible for developing recommendations for the following budgets to assist with the closing. Fiscal staff has identified the budgets that are recommended to be closed as recommended by the governor, along with the identified technical adjustments that are recommended below. Fiscal staff recommends that the following budgets be closed as recommended by the governor with the technical adjustments noted and requests authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary. Budget account 1013775, Department of Public Safety Training Division, including technical adjustments noted for other closing item 6 and deferral of other closing items 7 and 8, which includes budget amendment A232383775 for consideration when all other statewide decision units, including compensation, are discussed. Budget account 1013819, Department of Public Safety, Cigarette Fire and Safe Standard and Fire Support. Budget account 1014687, Department of Public Safety, Traffic Safety. Budget account 1014691, Department of Public Safety, Motorcycle Safety Program. Budget account 1014702, Department of Public Safety, Records, Communications, and Compliance. Budget account 1014703, Department of Public Safety, Forfeitures, Law Enforcement. Budget account 1014704, Department of Public Safety, Nevada Office of Cyber Defense Coordination. Budget account 1014705, Department of Public Safety, NHP K-9 Program. Budget account 2014707, Department of Public Safety, Office of Professional Responsibility, with deferral of other closing items 7 and 8, which includes budget amendment A232474707 for consideration when all other statewide decision units, including compensation, are discussed. Budget account 1014708, Department of Public Safety, Justice Assistance Act. Budget account 1014710, Department of Public Safety, Child Volunteer Background Checks Trust Account, inclusive of continuing language in the 2023-25 Appropriations Act to allow general fund appropriations to be transferred between fiscal years. Budget account 2014721, Department of Public Safety, Highway Safety Grants Account, including technical adjustments noted for other closing items 8 and 9 and deferral of other closing item 10 for consideration when all other statewide decision units, including compensation, are discussed. Budget account 7104727, Department of Public Safety, Capitol Police, including technical adjustments noted for other closing items 9 and 10 and deferral of other closing items 7 and 8, which includes budget amendment A230694727 for consideration when all other statewide decision units, including compensation, are discussed. Budget account 2014729, Department of Public Safety, State Emergency Response Commission. Budget account 1014734, Department of Public Safety, Justice Assistance Grant Trust Account. Budget account 1014736, Department of Public Safety, Justice Grant, including budget amendment A231054736, which eliminates other closing item number 5. Budget account 1014737, Department of Public Safety, Account for Reentry Programs. Budget account 1014738, Department of Public Safety, Dignitary Protection, including technical adjustments noted for other closing item 5 and deferral of other closing item 4 for consideration when all other statewide decision units, including compensation, are discussed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Miller. Well done. Chair Harris, would you like to make a motion?
Thank you, Chair Watts. I move to approve the budgets as described by staff and included on our closing documents on page 115.
Second.
Thank you very much. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Members, that does conclude our business for the day. We do have one item left on our agenda, which is public comment. If anyone would like to make public comment in Carson City, please come forward. Seeing no one at this time and no one in Las Vegas Broadcast Production Services, do we have anyone wishing to provide public comment by phone?
Chair, the public line is open and working, but there are no callers at this time.
Thank you very much. Again, I just want to take time to recognize it is Administrative Professional Day, and I want to recognize all of the hard work that is done by our fiscal staff, particularly the work that was done today that allowed us to close out these 28 budgets efficiently and effectively, as well as all of the folks that work in our agencies to help make this possible. So with that, I'd ask after I gavel out that we give them a round of applause for appreciation. Thank you all for your time. We're adjourned.